brings me to my next question as well. Like when you're working with a client and they're starting to like discover their voice or their genre, call it whatever you want, do you guys go to museums together to like pick up inspiration? Is that, something that makes sense?
That would totally make sense, and I always try to take clients to museums and to gallery shows, but very often the clients don't have time. That's the biggest problem, but it is an important step of collecting, is developing your eye. Yes.
Yeah, explain developing your eye.
So when you go into the contemporary art world, the first thing you're going to be attracted to is the more like aesthetically pleasing pieces, or the more shocking pieces, or the Jeff Koons, or this kind of things. But with time, your taste may develop into something that is completely different. You might, gear towards minimalism or more conceptual work. So it's very important, I think, when you're a first-time buyer, to really pinpoint what it is that you like. And I think when we say you like an artwork, it doesn't mean that you see it and you're like, oh, okay, it's really nice and it will look nice in my house. It really depends on, it has to make you feel something. If it's just eye-pleasing, if it's just eye-shocking, or if it's just sexy or whatever, you might get bored of it very quickly. It really has to create some sort of feeling within you. It can be a feeling of, it's beautiful, it's interesting, it's gross, it's whatever, but it has to create some sort of reaction inside of you, and that's when you know that this artwork will stay with you for a very long time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I would build on that and saying we have a lot of people that come to us saying, I want to buy a work by this artist just because he's very hot right now. Like, no matter the price, no matter, I want people to walk into my house and see an Alex Katz.
Yeah.
Like, and that's fine if you love Alex Katz, and if you love, looking at his work, and if you're gonna feel something, and if it just, you feel like it's the best portrait in the world. But if not, in a year, you're gonna come back and say, I don't want this Alex Katz anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
How do you feel about having people in your studio for the first time?
I mean, I learned to really like to have people in my studio. In the beginning, I felt like it was disrupting, but yeah, I actually really like having collectors in my studio, collectors that are nice, and you just always learn so much when people are looking at your work for the first time, and it's such a great opportunity, because I don't, like, if I have a show, so many of my friends come, and people that know me for so long, so they might be looking at the work for the first time, but they might already know the work. So the opportunity to see how one generally reacts to the work is so nice. And yeah, and some people really like it, and it's just like you were saying that you like my work today, and I was like, it's so moving, it's so important. And people tend to be really respectful. People tend to be just nice.
And I think that actually leads to my next question. How do you feel like the work translates through different cultures and through different, the different galleries that show your work throughout the world?
It's so hard because there's taste and there's art history. Like, New York has such a tight history with abstract expressionism, and this idea of the gesture and materiality and the freedom in painting. And New York audience have a really hard time with figuration and surrealism, and I am very invested in those narratives. So to my surprise, I found an amazing market in Europe, in Brussels, Austria, France, countries that also have a history of figuration. And it's not that New York doesn't show figurative art, it shows, but it's its heart isn't just for abstraction. It's hard.
We felt the same thing, because our business model is actually to work with artists from all over the world and to always produce the prints locally. And so, we have collectors that have bought Marcelo's work in Brazil, or have bought, here in New York, and in New York it's usually more Latin Americans. Yeah, and just to jump in a little bit on materials, oil painting takes forever to dry. So a lot of artists don't work with oil painting because their process is much, much longer if you're working with oil painting. So the oil painting has to be expensive. It's just so many hours of materials and time of the artist that goes into it. So a lot of times we get people say, oh yeah, I love the print, but I'd like an oil. I'm like, okay, so we're gonna have to go way up in budget because the artist's time has a lot of value.
I mean, definitely art, and also there's a technique. Oil painting is like technically very hard to do, and you have to learn a craft. You have to learn a technique, and I think a lot of people resist that. They want to be very immediate. They want to. There's a concern with speed, and so some people don't appreciate oil painting for the kind of like technical aspect, time-consuming, space that is needed. Therefore it becomes really expensive for the artist and for the buyer. So, yeah, money definitely comes in.
Dina, personal question. So when you are searching for works yourself, how do you start your search? Is it something that just happens? Is there a medium that you focus more? Like how does it go for you?
Being in the art world for so long, you're surrounded by artists. When I buy for myself, I know I like to buy young emerging artists, also under a certain price, because I don't necessarily would like to buy an artist who is dead. I would like to, for it to be good for the artist itself. I mean, I have a few works in my own collections. There is some photography and some painting. So you have two different kind of mediums. Lately, I've been much more interested in oil painting. I've gravitated much more towards oil painting. But I surprise myself when I go to an art fair or when I go to a show, being very loving like a photography piece. So I don't know. I have to say, like, it's a hard question because it's really what you feel like, what your instinct goes towards.
Yeah, I love photography because it really has no limits, right? You can find something which is just an artist proof and just so specially produced, or you can find an amazing work by Sebastião Salgado, for example, which are all open editions. So it's the whole concept that they should always be produced. So it kind of like dabbles in this whole logic of the world that we live in today in terms of technology, digital, scarcity, all of the different elements that are coming into play and that are changing the art market. And that happened many, many years ago. So it was ahead of its curve in many ways.
Yeah, I think that this is also one reason why I think young collectors gravitate towards photography, because it's so obviously related to the world, and painting is so related to the art world. It's so related to the idea of being an artist. It's so related to the studio. It's so related to our history and process that I think for someone who's like completely new to the art world, it might be alienating sometimes.
Yes, and I have to say, there's more and more digital artists, and they're doing great work.
Yeah.
And it's definitely something that we all should focus on. A lot of clients tell me, but do collectors buy video or digital art, and how do they just play it in their homes all the time? But actually, some people do. Some people just put it on when they have guests for a dinner, and the rest of the time it's in their storage. It still takes a lot of value with time, if it's good work. So yeah, we should all be open to digital work and video art. And I think Biennials is a great way to discover new artists.
Yeah.
The Whitney Biennial is an amazing show.
Yeah.
Here. When is it acceptable to ask for discounts? Is it offensive? Do you know? Is it okay?
Well, I think it's like standard practice that galleries end up giving between 15 to 10%. Anyway, like there's always like, this is the full price, but nobody pays the full price. There's always like, oh, can I get 10%, 15%? And that's usually understandable that it's there. So I think it happens with selling from the studio as well. There's obviously, because you're selling, I will not change my gallery price, so I will always coordinate with my gallery what is the maximum discount that I can give, and it's usually 15%.
Usually gallery gives, like she said, 10 to 15. It becomes uncomfortable if a collector is pushing for 20 or more. That usually galleries will not extend that much, but 10% is quite common.